$17 to $19. We have a special guest joining us right now. Mark Cuban is the owner of the Dallas Mavericks and Shark Tank investor. And Mark, you have been in the news a lot lately, but most recently you created this huge Twitter storm over the SEC's investigation of Lynn Tilton earlier this week.
I did?
Yeah, there was a little bit of a firestorm that took place over there.
I had a little bit of experience there.
You're not somebody who holds your tongue. You jump in, you rush into the fray. What happened here? Because this is different than what the SEC went after you for with insider trading.
Maybe not. I mean, look, I don't know all the details, obviously, just what I read, but apparently she had three funds where she bought into to debt in distressed companies, but they were from 2003, 2004, 2005. These aren't transactions that took place in 2013, 2014, and 2015. And so it's not like they went through big changes in 12 years. And so if it took, and apparently they took 5 years to get to the point where they were going to press charges. So to me, that's a red flag, because either A, she didn't adjust to what they asked.
The question, the SEC is looking into this, saying that some of the investments that she was holding, valuations changed. She didn't tell her investors. As a result, she was still able to take fees in from those investors.
Right,
now, she is fighting this pretty vigorously.
Absolutely. But again, not knowing all the details, but it's not the type of investment that changes day to day. And because it was from more than 10 years ago, you know, did she all of a sudden change how she valued things?
And does that stuff have to be mark to market on a day-to-day basis? I don't even understand how you do
No, it
that.
shouldn't. It probably doesn't have to be mark to market at all. And she probably didn't just make a decision. She probably went to her accountants and her lawyers, and she's been doing it for more than 10 years. And so the fact that they took, A, 5 years to make a decision to press charges, and B, it's not something that changes on a day-to-day basis, makes me raise a red flag. Because, like in my case, they waited, and there was a change in people who were taking over the case, and they wanted a skin on the wall. And when it came down to it, and we went to trial, it took less than 5 hours, of which an hour was for lunch for the jury to decide that they were full of crap. And so I question the SEC. And the other thing is, look, even if they find her liable, and this isn't a criminal case at this point, it's like an expensive parking ticket or speeding ticket. People don't look at the SEC and say, well, you had a problem with the SEC, so there's something wrong with you. The SEC isn't what it used to be.
So you're arguing on the one hand that the SEC is taking frivolous cases. On the other hand, you would like to see an SEC with more teeth.
It depends on what they're going to. I'd like to see the SEC take their insider trading group and extract it completely from the SEC and put it in a different group. There are no bright line laws for insider trading. You have no idea whether you've insider traded or not. I called up the SEC one time and said, you know what, I have this situation. I want to know if I'm allowed to do A, B, or C before I do it. They told me to send a letter, eight copies of a letter, based off of, they have on their website a copy of a fax from 1980 saying what to do. If you can't call the SEC and ask for guidance, yet they might sue you for something.
I've had the same issue with the IRS when I've called them and asked questions.
Right, it's ridiculous, right? You can't, if you don't know what to do, anybody can sue you for anything. It's ridiculous.
Sam, you ever run into any problems like this? Any SEC issues?
If you're in business and you're dealing in public companies, at various times you always are dealing with interpretive issues. And, the government is not the most efficient executor of policy. And, you were a victim of it. I was a victim of it years ago. That's why less government is all very, very beneficial.
Which is why we're all just so excited about net neutrality around here. I mean, you're talking about SEC. I'm thinking, yeah, it's an agency, maybe has some problems. I think the FTC, and I was thinking, if you ever said what you really felt about the FTC and the way this happened, I mean, that would make the SEC...
Or the FCC.
FCC, I'm sorry, FCC.
No, I said what I really felt about, of course.
But how about, so we know now that like, socialism's bad, probably. But is crony capitalism probably just as bad as socialism? Every single person in the world is going to have a government person to go to talk to about net neutrality to get either a waiver